Good evening, everyone. I'm hoping that this will be an interesting session for all of us. We might need to have another session for this because I'm not sure we'll be able to finish what we'll be talking about today. Let me start by saying that the tool for peace in our latter years is intentional parenting. A lot of parents today are not happy, they're sad because of what their children has become, and this as a result of the fact that they never learn parenting. You know, we learn to be doctors, lawyers, engineers. Pretty much every profession require at least about 18 to 20 years of training. At least 6 years in, 4 years in nursery, KG and the like, 6 years in primary, 6 years in secondary, 4 years in university. That's about 20 years already, just to learn how to earn. But there's no much training around on parenting, which is why this kind of conversation must be commended. And I want to commend all of us that are able to join today. I can see some that are already married with kids. Some are not married yet, but they are here. And the reason why I believe they are here is because they want to learn so that they can prepare themselves also ahead. Intentional parenting is an act of parenting by design, not by default. Many people parent by default, so there is no deliberate effort about parenting. There is no deliberate effort about parenting. And the reason is because nobody taught them also. So they're basically carrying along what they also learned from their own parents. Someone said, there is nothing like a stubborn child, but only ignorant parents. There is no such thing as a stubborn child, but only ignorant parent. And this is very important and profound for me because that's to tell you that a child can either turn out right or turn out wrong. It can either turn out with virtue or vices. It's all about what was imputed into that child. I want us to listen to the newly elected Prime Minister of UK, Rishi Sunak. Look at what he has to say about what he learned from his parents.
To spend some time amongst friends in the midst of all of this. And can you please join me in just thanking Dollar for putting this on? I've had a fun few days. I've been out and about talking to members across the country. I've been talking to them. They've been telling me things. I've been hearing what's on their mind. And I've heard so many of them all say to me, wow, Rishi, you're even shorter in real life. It's not been the start of the campaign that I would have thought, but it's been fine otherwise. But look, I'm standing here because, like many of you, this country did something incredible for our families, and it welcomed them here as immigrants decades ago. And that's why I'm here. My mum ran the local chemist in Southampton where I grew up. My dad was an NHS GP, and I was brought up with a certain set of values. I was brought up to believe that family is everything. Family provides the bond that no government can hope to replicate. Absolutely. And we must never lose that. Absolutely. I was brought.
Kindly note some of the things he's saying about his parents. I'm going to ask you when we finish. He has mentioned one already.
Up to believe in hard work, because if you work hard, there is nothing that you can't achieve in life. I was brought up to believe in the power of education to transform people's lives, that it was something that was worth sacrificing for, because that's how you built a better future. And I was brought up to understand the power of small business. I worked in my mum's shop. I worked in her pharmacy. I delivered medicines for her. I worked in the Indian restaurant as a waiter, and I saw firsthand, doing her books, her accounts, her payroll, just how powerful small companies are in providing jobs and opportunity for people in their community. Now, those are my values. I know.
All right. What did you pick up from what the newly elected Prime Minister of the UK, Rishi Sunak, the first Asian Prime Minister and the first non-British by origin Prime Minister, has to say from what he learned from his parents? Yes, can you drop it in the chat? What did you learn from that short message from Rishi Sunak? Yes, anybody? Drop it in the chat, please. What did you learn from what he said? Kindly drop it in the chat. Can you hear me, please? I can't see any message in the chat. Hard work pay off. Family is everything. Hard work pay off. Family is everything. Yes, any other one? Any other thing? It talks about the power of education and also small businesses. How powerful small businesses is to the economy. So let's go back. So there's no such thing as a stubborn child. There are only ignorant parents. A child is born blank. Whatever you see manifest in a child is actually what he learned from the adult of his life. What he learned from the adult of his life. And that's why, you really should not give back to a child if you yourself cannot train yourself or you don't understand how to train up that child in the way it should go. Because you are going to create a disaster for our society. And that is what is happening in our society today. Disaster for our society. Why? Because many people have given back to children and they've never learned anything about how to raise their children. Please know there is nothing like a stubborn child, but there are only ignorant parents. And I have accepted that ignorance is a gift. I've had to learn and learn and learn. And working with teenagers, I see a lot in them and how they are so different from us and how we must be their student to be able to understand them in order to be able to help them. In order to be able to help them. Someone said, in every child, there is an Osama and there is Obama. The one that you speak to is the one that responds to you. In every child, there's an Osama bin Laden who destroyed many lives, planned the attack of the Twin Tower in New York, United States. And there's a Barack Obama, the first Black president of America, who did amazing work to put the country back on the path of growth after the financial crisis in 2008 and 2009. In every child, there's an Osama, there's Obama. The one you speak to is the one that responds to you. That's to tell you that a child turned out to be what he should be based on what he's exposed to, based on what he can see from the action and reactions of the leaders or the adult of his life. Our job as parents is 18 years curriculum. Whatever you see in your child at 19 is your report card. Whatever you see at 19 is your report card. By the time a child is 18, the social justice system says he should be responsible, he should be ready for any responsibility, including a jail term. Including a jail term, such that if he does anything wrong at 17, they will say to fighting. They can take him to remand home. But when he becomes 18, he goes to jail where you have people that are as old as 80 years, even though he's 18. Please know that parenting that we do today is practically driven by emotion, a knee-jerk reaction, and not intentional application of principles. Intentional application of principles. So when people do parenting, because nobody has taught them, so it's a knee-jerk reaction. There's no intentionality in it. That is there a way to do it right? Is there a way to do it wrong? In fact, I believe that the way Africa is the result of the way our parenting has been. That means there's something wrong with the way Africans are training their children. That is why we are having leaders that are not compassionate. That's why we're having leaders that are very wicked. That's why we're having leaders who will rather impoverish the people for their own gain. That is the result of our parenting in Africa. You are either parenting by design or by default. By default means there is nothing you are put in place to know what to do. So there is no curriculum, there's no plan of action. Looking at different areas of the life of the child. It's just, in fact, some people outsource their job to the school. They outsource their job to their church or mosque. They outsource their job to the religious organization and not doing what they are supposed to do. It's very important you understand that as a parent, you are a steward. And because you are a steward, you are given this responsibility to bring out the best out of this child. Either you do it by design or by default. If it's by default, it's going to turn out bad. If it's by design, it's going to turn out good. If it's by default, it's going to turn out bad. If it's by design, it's going to turn out good. But unfortunately, this is by default for many because there is no plan of action. Because there is no plan of action of exactly what do I need to do to ensure that this child turns out well. These are important questions we have to ask as parents. These are important questions we have to ask as parents, that the child turn out right. That the child turn out right. And it's the responsibility on our shoulder. It's a responsibility on our shoulder. If we have to have peace in our latter years, if we won't have to be the ones supporting them, even in our latter years, if we won't have to see them and be unhappy that we even have kids in our latter years, then today is the time to do that job. As a matter of fact, that many of us today turn out well in life, it's not because our parents did anything fantastic. It was because we were just lucky for some of us. Maybe because of your friends, your neighbors, the school you went to, the religious organization you belong to. Some of us are just lucky. You will agree with me that there was no particular way you were being trained, that your parents really trained you. You were just lucky, but you might not always be lucky. In fact, it is easier to be lucky in those days. It is easier for parents to be lucky in those days, because in those days, it takes a village to raise up a child. If a child is not doing something right, a neighbor can see that child and discipline that child and correct that child. And the parent, when he hear about it, we commend the neighbor for what the neighbor has done. Today, that's not the case. Don't talk to my child. Don't do this to my child. Don't do that to my child. Everybody just protecting the child. And the child are not really taught how to become what they need to be. Unfortunately. And you know what? This younger generation, the Generation Z, the Generation Alpha, those children, they have some traits. Unfortunately, we don't have the time today to talk about those traits. But you need to go and read about the peculiarity about children. These children have some peculiarity that if you don't know about it, sincerely, you might damage them before they become a teenager. You know, every Sunday I go to a particular school. We have an outreach in that school, and I talk to teenagers every weekend. And I try to engage with them. You need to have an idea. You don't have an idea of what those children have gone through. Some of them are even depressed. Some of them hate their parents. They hate their parents. They don't have a relationship with their parents. Their parents put them in the boarding house because their parents never had that time for them. And the children are getting worse even in those boarding houses. It is important for us to know that parenting is a science. That means there is a method to it. That means there could be predictable outcome. Predictable outcome. Predictable outcome. Predictable outcome. Many parents do not have a framework for parenting. They just assume that the children will turn out right. No framework. This is because their own parents never had a framework also. No framework at all. No principle that guide them. Even in their parenting journey. Their parents beat, they also beat. Their parents send them to church or mosque, they also send them to church or mosque. Their parents send them to school, they also send them to school. Just basically replicating what they saw their parents do. No intentionality in the way that the child should go. No intentionality in the way that the child should go. If you bring up a child, bring a child into this world, and you hire thousands of prayer warriors to pray for the child to turn out right, but you consistently abuse that child, shout on the child, manhandle the child, he will never turn out right. A child that will be loving must be brought up in a loving and caring environment. A child that's wicked must be brought up in a wicked environment. If he's going to be wicked, it's because he was brought up in a wicked environment. If he has never seen love, he won't be able to show love. Love will be strange to the child. Love will be strange to the child, particularly for the man-child. They find it difficult to love their wife because of the way their parents also did to their mother. You know, someone was saying his father only hugged his mother once in a year for a few seconds during Happy New Year. What do you want that kind of boy to do to the wife? This is what the degree of sin. This is what the degree of sin. You need a framework around parenting, a framework around their career development, a framework about their spiritual development, a framework about their service to humanity. So you have something around their service. They have a sense of service to be a blessing to their world. You can call that their calling. About their spirituality. What does it mean to be spiritual? To be spiritual is to love. To be spiritual is to be filled of peace, even in the midst of challenges. To be spiritual is to be full of joy. To be spiritual is to be gentle. To be spiritual is to be gentle. To be spiritual is to be meek. To be spiritual is to be meek. To be spiritual is to be faithful. Love, joy, peace, gentleness, goodness, faith. These are evidence of spirituality. These are core values that should be put in the child. And of course, a framework around their career development. A framework around their career development. A framework around their career development. Your parent does not have to be, your children does not have to be a doctor because you are a microbiologist or a biochemist or someone who wants to do medicine but could not do medicine. So your child must do medicine. You know, it's amazing. I have a lot of young people around me. And sometimes when they tell me that they don't want to do this particular course, but their parents say they must do it. And because their parents say they must do it, they have to do it. And if they don't do it, the parent will not pay their school fees. So the children end up doing what they don't want to do. I have a friend on campus. This guy, today is a CFO of a financial institution. He's a medical doctor. He studied medicine. I went to a medical school. I finished from Lut. So we're in the same class. He doesn't go for lectures. He doesn't go for lectures. He doesn't go for lectures. He will copy notes, but he will go to the lab so he can see what they are teaching, what they will be testing in the lab. He never failed any course. The day he finished medicine, he went to enroll for ACCA. Today he's a chartered accountant. He always want to be an accountant, but the parent wants him to do medicine. He did the medicine, but today he's not practicing. Framework for their career in the way they should go. It is important for parents, as a parent, you are a steward. Look, you know, there are some philosophy we have in Africa that is not helping us. You are a steward. You don't own the child. You don't own the child. The child is not your covering. You know, in Southwest, there is a saying around child. It's not. You are a steward. That child will leave your house one day. Prepare him to get ready to leave. So you and your wife remain. You are a steward. The child is a stranger in your house. He will leave, whether you like it or not. Your job is to prepare him for life. Is to prepare her for life. Is to prepare them for life. They are not your property. So you shouldn't get attached in a way that when they want to take their own decision, you hold them down. They must do it your way, even when they're already 18. And the social justice system say they should be ready for any responsibility, including a jail term. You still want to dictate for them what they will do with their life because you think you own them. It is important for us to be open-minded and be ready to learn from these children if we are going to be effective as parents. The scripture says something. Train up a child in the way he should go. Train up a child in the way he should go. That means there is a training. We suggest a curriculum. We suggest a framework. Train up a child in the way he should go. There is a way he should go. There is a way he should go. Your job is to observe him and to discover the way he should go. Your job is to observe him and discover the way he should go. Train up a child in the way he should go. And when he's old, he will not depart from it. Train up a child in the way he should go. That suggests curriculum. That suggests curriculum. That suggests curriculum. And observe him to know the way he should go. That statement says, train. Another word in the Hebrew rendition of that word, he said, initiate. Initiation. Initiation. Another word in that Hebrew rendition of that word, he said, discipline. And I will explain what discipline means very soon. Discipline a child in the way he should go. Discipline a child in the way he should go. And when he's old, he will not depart from it. Because you have trained him. You have conditioned him. And this has to be done early. This has to be done before he's teenager. This has to be done early. Because the personality is fully formed when he's teenager. Form in, mold in, when he can still be molded in the way he should go. It has to be customized in a way that he should go. There must be a way he has to go. There must be a way he has to go. It has to be a custom he should follow. Not necessarily what you have known, but what is necessary for him. This means there must be a curriculum that must be used to produce the desired result. I've given you a framework of that around his career, around his spirituality, and around his service to humanity. Because he's created for a purpose. Because before he was formed in the belly, he was ordained to solve a problem on the earth. You are privileged to have him in your house. You are privileged to have her in your house. To prepare her, to prepare him to solve that problem. The first assignment of a parent is to observe. Is to observe. What do you notice he's doing? You know, sometimes a child is told he's destroying this thing, he's scattering things. And the child is beaten for scattering things. Rather than observing, why is he scattering things? A parent was told that your child is always breaking the pencil of his colleague. He's very destructive. He told them, he told the people in the school, he said his child is not destructive. His child is not destructive. He said, let me ask you, when he collected that pencil from his friend, what does he do with it? They said he used it to beat drum. That child today is the leader of the band in his school. The beating of drum is coming out. His dad also beat a lot of drum. He's taking a trait from his dad. So he used pencil. That gift is looking for expression. The teacher interpreted it as being destructive. They interpreted it as being destructive. But the parent is aware enough to know my child is not destructive. He's trying to do something you are not noticing. What are you noticing in your child? Everybody complain about him. But what do you see? What do you see? But what do you expect of a child, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years? It will jump up and down. There's something that is expected. It will pour water on the ground. There's some things is expected. Look, there's some things that a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 6, even sometimes 7-year-old do that she's normal. If you beat him for what is normal, then something is wrong. Then something is wrong. Because as a child, he will behave as a child. Paul said, when I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I behaved as a child. He said, when I became a man, I put away childish things. So there's some characteristics that conform to a child. Your TV is very low in the house. Your TV is very low in the house. The child break it. And you're beating the child for breaking the TV. You're beating the child for breaking the TV. It's your fault. Raise it up and ask the question, what was he trying to do? He won't just break it because it's destructive. There's something he's seeing. Maybe he's seeing himself in it. There was a time it happened in my house and my child broke the mirror. He's trying to touch himself in the mirror. It's called curiosity. Don't beat out the curiosity with cane. That curiosity is the energy of invention. That is characteristics and trait of a researcher who is going to provide solutions to our world. Observe your child. Your first assignment as a parent is to observe your child. So you can help the child to be able to discover the way he should go. Most of the things that the child do that we complain about, breaking stuff, arranging stuff, improvising, singing, talking, are signal of the kind of child who or she is. Help the child to be able to become best of himself. That is your job as a father and mother in the life of that child. In the life of that child. You see the child like improvising? He like beating drum? He like shouting and singing? What does he like doing? Are you observing? Or you're complaining that he talk too much and you want to stop me from talking too much? And you end up domesticating the child. A lot of child that will say is submissive. They are not submissive. They have been domesticated. They have been subdued by beating and battering and cane. By beating and battering and cane. Many parents think they are disciplining their children. But that's not true. Because many don't even know the meaning of discipline. The word discipline is from the Latin word disciplina. And it means to groom. Look at discipline. To groom, to help, to raise, to disciple. That is discipline. That is discipline. For those of us that are Christians, you see how Jesus helped his disciple. You see the way when he left, what they became. Do even more than what he did when he was on earth. That is discipleship. That is what discipline does. That's why some courses in the campus are called, they say, what's your discipline? They say, what's your course? Because there's a way the course make you to begin to think. Discipline. Discipline. The word discipline is to groom, to help, to raise, to disciple. So you can see that to discipline is not to yell. You know, sometimes we can't help it. Sometimes I do yell, but when I finish yelling, I'll be asking myself, why are you even yelling? What's your problem? Because it's subconscious. So we must become conscious of it. Not to yell. Not to yell. Discipline is not to yell or to change your face, but rather to groom the child. The child should not be afraid of you. The child should be vulnerable before you. If you enter and the child has to run away and or to pack, rather than coming to hug you first and welcome you first before you're thinking of packing, there's no love in that house because there's no fear in love. Perfect love casts out fear. There's no fear in love. Perfect love casts out fear. There's no fear in love. Perfect love casts out fear. Another word we use often is discipline. Sorry, it's a punishment. Punishment. Many parents really do not discipline. They simply domesticate the child. Domesticate came from a Latin word means domesticatus, and it means to tame, to clip the wing. You know when a child says, I will clip your wing, rather than allow the child to fly, you want to clip the wing of the child so that the child will be submissive. It's not submissive, it's subdued. It's been domesticated. It's not free to express himself. It's not free to express himself because it's been domesticated. Every time parents say, I'm going to tame the child, I'm going to clip the wings, what they are saying is, I'm going to domesticate the child because you're not disciplined. Punishing the child. Another word we use is punishment. Many parents don't discipline, they actually punish. You know, when the child does something wrong, and out of the anger of what he has done, you have to give him a pound of flesh, equivalent to the pain you felt by what he did. I ask myself a lot about it. When my son breaks something, I'll be asking, you know, because look, these children are very curious. A child is born fearless with curiosity. The fear, he learned it here. The lack of curiosity, he learned it here. And we beat that curiosity out of them and bring fear into their lives because of the way we handle them. Because of the way we handle them. Because of the way we handle them. Punishment is from the word punire, Latin word punire, and it means to inflict pain, to avenge. And this is exactly what many parents do when their children cause them pain. They want to give him a pound of flesh, equivalent to how they felt. 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 They don't discipline, but they punish. And it's been discovered that many parents really never discipline their child. They only punish that child. In fact, sometimes they beat that child without even explaining to the child what the child has done. He doesn't even know why he's been beaten. Whereas the Chinese, the Japanese, the Arab, the Indians, and Jews raise up their children to take over the world by spotting in them potential and educating the child in line with the part of indispensable, to be part of the indispensable race in the world. That's why I played that video of the new Prime Minister of UK, Rishi Sunak, and what he learned from his parents. And you see what has led him today. An immigrant, an Indian by origin, became the Prime Minister of the UK, just the way Barack Obama became the President of the US. Africans, we are raising children to become independent, to be better than their mate, to be better than their mate. You know, if you beat your child because he's not first in class, something is wrong. Because if he's first, so he must be first, every other people must be behind. It's not a good way to think. First of all, you must understand that first in class is not first in life. And that not every child learns the way we teach today. Today, when they finish teaching, you must be able to do la crème, la pop, and la forget, like some people say. And a child that is not able to do that, we help them to destroy their self-esteem and say he's olodo, he's dunce, he doesn't even know anything because you think you're paying so much and the child is not bringing forth what you expect. I would recommend you read a book. The book is called If You Want to Be Rich and Happy, Don't Go to School by Robert Kiyosaki. He was trying to tell us how school system is damaging us. It's damaging our children. It doesn't want people to try things and fail and try again because the school system says when you fail, you're a failure. When you fail, you're a failure. Many parents want to raise a godly child. So you ask them, what is the definition of a godly child? They said a godly child is a child that is quiet and obedient. But if you ask them, what does it mean to be God? Because they actually want their child to be obedient to them when they say it should be godly. They don't want the child to ask them questions and argue with them. Because he is godly. You know, there was a time a teacher came to teach my son at home, and he said he's always asking questions. When you ask him, he said, why? That is curiosity. Let him ask questions. If you can't answer, tell him you don't have the answer, you get back to him and go and research it. Rather than not allowing him to ask questions. Curiosity is extremely necessary for our kids. Curiosity is extremely necessary. So if you ask parents, what does it mean to be godly? Or what are the characteristics of God? They will say that God is omnipotent, God is omniscient, God is sovereign. These are attributes your child can have. Because Microsoft is omnipresent. Facebook is omnipresent. Zoom is omnipresent. They are present everywhere. And they are invention of the child of a parent. What are you training your child to become? What are you training your child to become? You're training them to be what you want or the way they should go. Ladies and gentlemen, the gap between where we are now in Africa as parents and where we want our children to be in the future can be filled with intentional scripting, which can create a better outcome. We do individual parenting without a template that will deliver a predictable outcome. And that is why children are always watching movies, cartoons. We want to keep them busy so they won't disturb us. We want to engage them. And sometimes you're not even monitoring what they are watching. You know, I would recommend you avoid your children watching cartoons on TV nowadays. Get them something else to engage in. Those cartoons are not healthy again. Those cartoons are not healthy again. Those cartoons are making those children. Those cartoons are making those children to be thinking about gay. Some of them will ask you, what kind of sex am I now? Because this is what they are watching online. This is what they are watching online. Yes, I'm saying that tech inventions, some of them are but what I mean by omnipresence is that they are everywhere. So you should be thinking of how your child can create a solution to our world that will be everywhere. That's exactly what I mean. I'm going to talk about the fact that they can be a type of God on the earth. God in the sense that they can create an invention that is used by everybody. This is the way the Jews, the Americans, the Europeans, and even the Asians are training their children. And we are seeing it in the outcome in their leaders. But we're not seeing it in us. Look, the result of African parenting over the years is seen in the kind of leader we want to see in our world today. The kind of leader we see in our world today. Look at Africa. Some of our presidents have been there for 40 years and they still want to live. And the people are not happy and they don't care. Let me ask you a question. Think about this. Who taught you parenting? Your parent. Who taught your parent parenting? Your grandparent. Who taught your grandparent parenting? Your great-grandparent. Your great-grandparent live in an uncivilized world without technology. What they taught your grandparent and they taught your parent and they taught you is what we are using to train our children. It can't work. It cannot work. It cannot work. It cannot work. In whose culture were we taught parenting? In whose culture were we taught parenting? If you don't like what you see in our society today, it's an evidence of the way we have done parenting so far. And these are a report card. You will agree with me that the outcome of African parenting is what has made Nigeria and Africa to be what it is today. To be what it is today. Now, remember that the personality of a child is 80% formed by the time he's 6 and 100% formed by the time he's 12. When they become a teenager, it becomes difficult to change them. Thank the grace of God, it takes sometimes drastic action. In fact, I have a mentor that helped parent who has a wayward teenager to reset their brain. He helped them, literally helped them reset their brain. And one of the things he does, he will take them to prison to see how prisoners live. He will take them to cemetery to see how dead bodies are, to see the grave, rather, people. Then he will take them to mortuary to see dead body. Then he will take them to a 5-star hotel to see the best of life. And then he will now speak to them. He said, when he finishes up time, parents will be asking, what did you do to my child? What did you do to my child? It seems to have changed. It's difficult to change teenagers because their personality is 100% formed. You have a lot of work to do between 6 and 12 to be able to train them in the way they should go. It's very difficult for many parents because they don't have the time. But why bring children into this world if you don't have the time to engage with them? 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes every day to have conversation with them. Just like empty computers require installation of different softwares and applications in order to become useful, a child also is born blank. There's nothing in the mind of the child. For the first 6 years of his life, you are installing what he sees, what he hears. He's installing. He's installing. There's some character you have today. You didn't even know that it's been installed in you by your parents. If you dig deeper into some of your way you behave, the way you respond or react, the issue, you will be shocked. That some of them you pick it up from your parents. Some of them you pick it up from your parents. You know, when I left banking, my friend told me I was going on a suicide mission. After a while, I had to think about it. To resign a high-paying job to say you want to start entrepreneurship. But I realized that growing up, my parents never talked about salary. My parents were both entrepreneurs. So in my reality, earning salary was not there. I think it was not in my... So resigning a high-paying job to do entrepreneurship was so easy. Because growing up, it took me a while to now realize, because when I realized some people find it difficult. I was asking myself, it wasn't difficult for me to take that decision. But it wasn't because I'm a superhuman. The exposure I've had in life was all about entrepreneurship. I helped my mom in the shop, helped my dad in his shop, and I just used to it. But I took a decision without being conscious that that was a program running in my life. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a program running in your life today. It's affecting your decision every day. It's affecting what you are doing and who you have become, and you pick it up from your parent. You pick it up from the adult of your life. A child is blank. So the child, by the time he's 7, he begins to play out some of those things. He begins to say things based on what he can say, what he's learning in school, what he's learning at home. He begins to do something. For example, if you are always watching African Magic, if you are always watching movie, your children are going to be watching movie. You can't be watching movie and telling them to go and read their books. You can't be not reading, not learning, and telling them to go and read their books. Why? They are seeing you not reading. If you are always reading, a staff of mine some time ago was telling me about a lady in Unilag. I think he finished about 3-4 years ago. He had 4.9. She had the overall best result. So this guy while this girl was still in that school, my colleague was asking this lady in the school that, look, because at that time it was 411 and it was 4.9 already. And I was saying that when it was going on, he said this girl in school, she reads for averagely 8 hours. I think she's always in the library. He said when he was growing up, the dad would be reading newspaper or reading on computer, and he would say she should come and sit down and be reading. So growing up, as the dad is reading, she's reading. So she is used to reading. So reading is not work. Learning and studying is not work. Why? He sees a parent. She sees a parent doing it. that program has been installed in her. As a student on campus, she was always reading. And she came up with the first class. Overall best student. Why? It's not rocket science. She saw it. The question we should be asking ourselves is, what do you want your children to be saying? What do you want the children to be saying? What do you want them to be saying? They are watching you. They are watching you. They are watching you. They are watching you. Just like a computer program is useful after you have installed software on it, so also a child is born blank, but the adult of his or her life install different program in his or her life by virtue of what he sees them do. As a roundup, I'd like to talk about the core function of a parent. Number one, discover. Number two, develop. Number three, deploy. Your job as a parent is in threefold. Discover them. Discover them. Discover them. Discover by observing. So you can know what needs to be developed. So you can know what needs to be developed. So the course they study, the class they are in secondary school, if it's going to be science, art, or commercial, is based on your observation, not based on your preference. not based on your preference. By now, you will agree with me. It's not really about the course a student study on campus. You should know that by now. In our world today, it's not by course. It's not because they either study computer science or study engineering or study medicine or study. No. It's about the child operating in his gifted zone and his creativity comes out and that makes him different. Discover the child. Develop the child. Remember, framework for development, not just in career. That career you think he wants to based on your discovery, what are the level of character required to be able to do it well? And then deploy them to be a blessing to their world. The ultimate goal of parenting is to be able to deploy your child in such a manner that is able to solve problems that has been created to come and solve in the world. Every soul on earth, even though many never realize it, is created to solve a problem. Before I formed thee in the belly, I ordain you a prophet to a nation. There is a particular people they are supposed to go and solve problem for. He saw the affliction of the Egyptians and he sent Moses and he ensured he was trained in the way he should go. And Moses delivered the children of Israel. He was created for that purpose. For this purpose was he born. To this extent was he sent. The ultimate goal of a parent is to be able to help the child to solve the problem of the world. Please note, this is the ultimate goal. And if it cannot be achieved, and this cannot be achieved by beating rather than intentional parenting. Let me talk a little bit about beating. You know, I was beating growing up. If beating changed, I know it wasn't beating that changed me. Because my parents will beat me today for not playing football, I'll play it tomorrow. They'll beat it tomorrow, I'll play it tomorrow. Have you ever wondered why someone who was taken into prison, jailed, come out after some years? After some years, you go back to prison. After some years, he goes back to prison. The punishment did not change them. Some countries today have changed the way they run their prison. They create an environment that can bring out the creativity of the people so that when they come out of prison, they are more useful to the society. Listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. Talking about beating. Since some people will like to quote scripture on beating using the rod of correction, because they think beating is the only rod of correction that led the rod of correction they can use to correct their child. Look at this. Never beat a child for what you have not taught him how to do. So what are you beating the child for? Have you taught him how to do it? He poured water on the ground? Have you shown him how to get the water? He broke something? Have you taught him how to carry it? Never beat a child. If you have not taught him how to do that thing, never beat a child for what you have not given him opportunity to learn how to do. So you have taught him how to do it. Have you taught him, like giving me time to master how to do it? I've given opportunity to master how to do it. I've given opportunity to master how to do it. You know, sometimes we shout on our house help because they didn't do things the way we want them to do it. We forgot. You went to primary, secondary, university. You probably have a master. You had a lot of exposure to be able to know how to do that thing. You told your house help, and you think the house help will just know it by fear. If you show him how to do it, show her how to do it, she needs time to learn. She learns how to master it. Don't beat a child. When you have no proof that beating can solve the problem that you're currently facing with him. If beating can solve it, go ahead and beat. I don't have any issue with beating. I will recommend you don't, but now I'm giving you a guideline. If you must beat, that thing you're beating him for, will beating stop it? And ask yourself, when you were beaten, the thing they're beating you for, when you were growing up, did you stop it? I think the challenge is behavior governance. Behavior governance. Is there a way you can tame that energy? I give my son exercise to do when the energy is too much, so that the energy can reduce, so he can concentrate and do other things. Beating can stop them from what they are doing right now, but is it changing behavior? Always remember, a behavioral change cannot be affected by just beating. Have you ever noticed why some children become wayward and misbehave when they get to campus? Beating domesticated them. When they got to campus, they will come out. The real thing will come out, because now it's a land of unlimited freedom. Don't beat a child when you have no proof that beating can solve that problem. If beating can solve it, of course it's your child, you can go ahead. Never beat a child without giving him opportunity to explain what he did or why he did it to defend himself. Sincerely, sometimes, even when I want to get my child to do the exercise I would normally give him, sometimes when they tell me why he do it, I have to stop. Because sometimes, really, he's giving me the reason. And really, the reason sometimes is reasonable, only that he doesn't know any better to handle that situation. Never beat a child when you are angry, because you will damage him. He's going to see you as being wicked. Don't beat him when you're angry. Even if you have to beat when you are okay. And let him know the reason why you are beating. If you must beat, he must know the reason why. He must know the reason why. Never beat a child when there are other corrective measures outside beating to solve the problem. So for me, I would deny privileges. I know what he wants. He wants his tablet to be able to learn a lot about, and I feel, if you can afford it, maybe a tablet will help, sincerely. You know why? To a large extent, you can control what they see. And they, recently, I realized that, look, children need to learn about money early. I went online. I saw a particular YouTube channel on money for kids. So I told my son, you learn all your academics, math, body type. You see this money, you have to learn it also. So you need to know what asset is, what liability is. You need to know what is money. And how should I be, to be prudent. And when you see, that's why I said, when you see the way some people think, they'll be able to put some of these things in a way that even a child can understand. And all this material are on YouTube Kids, and you can have control over what your children are seeing. It is important that I say that we overrate beating. We overrate beating because beating does not solve behavioral problem. If beating solves behavioral problem, then when you catch a thief and you beat and batter them, he should not steal again, but he will go and steal. So that behavioral problem cannot be stopped by beating. Cannot be stopped by beating. As I close, remember, there is nothing like a stubborn child. There are only ignorant parents. And ignorance is a gift. That's why we're here today, to be able to dialogue. And I will be waiting for your question as I close now. I also said, in every child, there's an Osama and there's an Obama. The one that you speak to is the one that responds to you. If you speak to the beauty in your child, the beauty will respond to you. If you speak to the wickedness in the child, the wickedness will respond to you. In closing, please note that parenting is a serious issue and it must be taken seriously. And if you refuse to do this, the society will help you to parent your child through the media. It will help you to parent your child through social media. It will help you to parent your child through the TV. But unfortunately, you might not like the outcome you see. I'm hoping we'll be able to have other sessions to dig deeper into this in future. Now that you know these things, happy, blessed, and peaceful shall your latter years be if you do them. Thank you very much. I don't know if there are questions. Can you hear me, please? I hope I've not been speaking to myself.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Let me take your question before I take your comment. If you have a question, you can raise up your hand or drop it in the chat. Comment, question? Okay, I think you can, Deltos, you can take over and ask about what they learned if you don't have any question.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, for the session. We have really learned a lot, and I'm sure that we are going to, okay, I think someone has...
Someone said, what are other rods of correction?
Okay.
You can talk to them. Ask now, okay, let me say this. You need to give what someone call it perceptual code. I think it was praised for what I call it perceptual code. I think, what kind of child are you raising? And reminding them of why, the kind of person they are. And in correcting, like I said, you can deny privileges. What do they like? Maybe their tablet, if they have tablet, or a TV program that they would like to watch. Whatever it is that you know, if it's taken away from them, they will not like it, and it will make them to want to do what they need to do because they don't want to be denied that privilege. I don't know if Damaris got that.
Yes, I just thought you would mention the other ones. Like, you gave us one. Are there like others apart from that one?
No, whatever it is that you can use to get them to do what they need to do, and it will be based on their preference. So there are so many, it depends on the child. Just give an example of what I use. So it depends on, so maybe you have a bicycle in the house and you bought a bicycle and you like riding the bicycle, or you like playing a particular kind of toy. And you said, no toy today. And the reason is because of what you did. Because of what you did. If you want to keep playing with your toy, then you have to stop this. So today, no toy. And so if he knows that, if he does that again, this will be withdrew from him, he will begin to think right. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand that concept. I'm just saying, are there other concepts, like other roads of correction apart from denying of privileges?
Speaking to them. Some people don't mind spanking, but like I said, if you're going to spank, ask those questions before you spank. If it will fix it, why not? So for me, it will never another here or there in terms of spanking, but research has shown that really, to a large extent, behavioral governance is not going to be solved by just punishing the people, but rather helping them to see what they must do right. All right.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. Sir, please, concerning the ways to distract an active child, like a child who is that people generally say hyperactive, that jumps up and down,
yes.
up and down.
Yes.
Yeah, I've had people say that it's not good to give such children tablets or something that is one should reduce screen time to avoid probably addiction
Yes, yes,
such
yes.
devices. So I don't want to ask, is there like maybe
It's to reduce
guide,
the energy. So this is what I do. I'll give him exercise to do. When the energy is dying, we sleep. I'll just give him. I'll do for something. Sometimes I'll tell him to carry something. I just give him exercise to do. Just exercise. Sometimes I'll say, go and kneel down and carry something. Just give him. He has a lot of energy. I will find a way to expend that energy. When he's tired, he will go and sleep. When he wake up, he will do other things. But we are right. In terms, when you say screen time, another thing is, what is he learning in the screen time? And what is he learning?
Yeah.
If he's, like I said, if you engage the monitor what is like, so some people just give a phone, you'll be playing game. In as much game help to develop the brain, I feel there are other things he can learn. You need to see, there's so much that can learn if you can get a tablet for them. But just get a phone and be watching different things, I don't think it will help, which is where the screen time is. But if screen time is such that they are able to learn, I think it will help. But they need to also do their homework or assignment, which will take other time from them. Yes, Yemi, good evening. I saw your hand.
Good evening.
It's a long time.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm fine.
Yeah. Thank you so very much for this lecture. Actually, it's something that I've been struggling with. You know, if my question is, how do you manage a child that's already formed? You know, maybe you started raising the child when she's like maybe 10, 12. So where she's coming from, she already had a mindset. And, you know, for me, I've been struggling. I don't want to be it, but I see that there's so many things in this girl that, you know, that shouldn't be. I try to talk to correct her, but apparently she's already formed. How do I manage that?
So now, if there's something, let's give an example. Give me an example of one thing he's doing. One thing he's doing that you want her to stop doing, and she's not stopping because she's formed.
Okay, I do tell her, anything you want, tell me.
Okay.
I won't beat you, and don't lie to me. I won't beat you for telling lies. But no, she will keep on lying and taking things. Yes, and taking things that don't belong to her.
Materials online, videos that shows the impact of lying and how they end, and watch it together. You know, you need to do this as frequently as possible. Get as many, either documentary or live video, or it might even be a movie, but that shows someone having those kind of traits, and the end. Show as many as possible. We need to understand the fact that when you expose someone to something for a long time, the information gets into him and weather out what is already inside. It will take a while. That continuous exposure becomes extremely important. When you finish watching, discuss. What have you learned from her? This thing, what did this person do? What is the outcome? Are you okay with it? Do you want that to happen to you? That is the outcome of those that go that route and do it different scenarios regularly. Because he needs to change himself, and he needs to see the reason why before he will be able to effect that change. Else, he won't, because he can't see the need for it. He's already used to this. We have to uninstall. You know, the Bible says, be ye transformed by renewing of your mind. What you do when you do that is to renew his mind and remove those old installations with the new one. It will take a while, but over time, it's going to change. I don't know if that helps.
Yes, thank you.
Temi Ibrahim. Hello, Temi. I can see your hand. Can you raise it? Can you unmute? I don't know. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Hear you. I can
hear you.
Good evening. Good evening. I
hear
want to ask that, is there any way I can help my son? I'll put it in writing, although, that he loves singing, and most especially his Christian songs. All these Nata Basi, Tope Alabi, he sings from beginning to the
to the
end.
end. Okay. Now,
So I
what
was
effort
looking
have
at
you
it
made to
that,
help
is
him
he
with?
too young?
What effort have you made to help
You
him
said
with
what?
music?
I've not made any efforts. I was
So
thinking he's still small. He's
get an
4.
instrument, get someone to come and teach him. How old is he?
He's 4.
Wow.
And he sings
So
from,
now,
most times when we are in the car,
that means you also
he
play
sings from beginning.
to the end.
Yes, in
That
the
means
car,
you
mostly in the car.
That means you also play
Yes,
the things regularly.
Yes,
That's
in the
exposure.
car, whenever we are in the car. Yes.
So obviously he loves
He
music, but
sings.
that's not what I saw.
Yes.
I saw a photographic memory to be able to learn anything. So why don't you also explore other things beyond just playing music?
Like what, sir? Like what?
What do you, if you have discovered him and you've seen the trait in him or what you want him to be like in future, and you're now exposing him. So for example, if you notice, maybe you feel it will be like sharing for people. I'm just giving an example. Beyond singing.
Okay.
You can get for exposing to documentaries around body parts, medicine. In fact, there is a particular one my son watched. It's called Dr. Bynum. It teaches children science. So because he has a photographic memory, he can pick up stuff easily. He will be able to.
Yes.
He will be able to. So beyond singing is just an expression. That can be, it could have been him reciting a particular, maybe state and capital, or reciting a particular process or mechanism, whatever it is. That's what is there. So it's for you to deliberately now expose him to other things, but don't leave that music out. He needs to also learn how to sing officially, maybe get a teacher to come and teach him some instrument or piano or the like.
But is he not too so young for teaching a 4 years old?
What do you mean by too soon? You feel he might be able to grasp it?
I think maybe it will be too tedious for him.
You know, is he complaining? The one he's already doing is not complaining.
It's not.
It's not. It's
yes.
My son plays organ in the house. It's already, he plays. He has a teacher that comes to him every week and he plays. He's already played a lot of songs. He likes singing also. So he played the piano in the house. You understand? So deploying the energy of singing. So I feel you need to allow, because you are lucky that you are even getting to observing that. And you want it to have expression. And that's the work you have to do.
Okay.
Someone said 4 years old is not too young to learn music. A child with photographic memory can learn languages easily. I agree with you.
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much. I will engage him in other things and enroll him.
Thank you.
Okay, for songs. Thank you, sir.
All right. Any other question before we close today? All right. Deltos management, please take over.
Thank you very much, sir. Really appreciate our children to know, to discover them. I pray God will help us to be able to do this work effectively. Thank you all for joining. God bless you. Bye.
All right. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.